Let Obscure Tribal Week begin. What's going on, guys? If you want to support our content and pick up this month's amazing Patreon rewards, you can do so at patreon.com/itresolves. If you're interested in custom playmats and sleeves, visit YourPlaymat.com and use code ItResolves10YP for 10% off your entire purchase. What is going on, everybody, and welcome to Obscure Tribal Week. This is a special one because I absolutely love seeing what you guys have come up with. We have gotten more submissions this week than I think we have ever gotten, so I just want to say as a community, thank you all so much for being a part of it. Thank you for your submissions. I really do appreciate it. It's great to see this kind of grow a little bit. We've got some new people, things like that, and so I'm really curious to see how this week actually pans out. As a reminder, if you would like to submit to this or any other challenge week, you can certainly do so. The link is down below. We have a Discord link there with a challenge submissions channel that you can submit to. As a reminder, the winner this week is the person who gets the most wins with their obscure tribe. Now, with being obscure, we cannot do things like elves or goblins or the basics. We can't do that. And today, it's actually going to get a little weird. And so I'm really excited about that one. I hate that I made that joke. The winner, just as a heads up, is going to be getting a free proxy pack with 5 of our digitally altered proxies that we print normally only for our Patreon people, but we make them available through this series. So again, if you would like to submit, Discord link down below, but let's go ahead and jump into today's deck. And here it is. This is Modern Uro's Weird build. Really stoked to play this one. Before we get into that, just a quick PSA or reminder more than anything. We did have a lot of submissions this week, and again, I really appreciate that, but please double check the availability of the cards that you put in your deck on Arena, as well as just the legality of the cards on Arena. As an example, I know we did have one individual, and I'm not calling anybody out here, but they did put Swords to Plowshares in the list, and while that's a very fantastic card and I would love to play it, it's not actually legal in Historic. So while it is on Arena, we cannot play it on the ladder. So please just double check those things. If we make a change to a deck, it's basically because we literally have to. Other than that, there's no reason why we would ever change a list. And thankfully, this one we didn't have to. So like I said, this is a weird build. We've got things like Metallic Mimic here, which is going to be able to buff up all of our weirds. Absolutely fantastic card. I expect we'll see probably a decent number of Metallic Mimics this week, honestly. We've got Spellkeeper Weird, which is going to allow us to pull back instants and sorceries from the graveyard. Now, that can be helpful. We don't have a ton of great targets for it, but Memory Lapse, Brainstorm, Opt, they're all there. I would say we could pull back Experimental Overload, but unfortunately we can't. That would be such a sick little combo though. But this is kind of one of the bigger payoffs. So create an XX blue and red weird creature token where X is the number of instants and sorcery cards in your graveyard. You can then return one to your hand and then exile the overload. Again, we don't have a ton, but it is worth noting that if we just get like 4 or 5 of these in the graveyard, this is actually a pretty strong card. And keep in mind, we are going to have things like Metallic Mimic to buff stuff up. And then, of course, things like Icon of Ancestry, which does essentially the same thing. So very, very worth noting. Bloodline Pretender and Spellgorger Weird are also very big threats later in the game. So we're hoping to kind of get those down as early as we can and start getting some counters on them as quickly as we can. We do have Spark Double here, which is just going to provide us with a copy of basically whatever we need. We've got Vanquisher's Banner, which is going to be able, again, to buff everything up. And then Reflections of Littjara, which is a very, very sick card. Basically, anytime we play a weird, we actually just get another one of the same kind. So it's actually kind of sweet. Some lands that I wanted to mention, mostly just Unclaimed Territory here. This is a land that, again, I expect to see a good bit of this week because it does work exceptionally well in a tribal deck. So we'll see how this one goes. We are going to send it through 3 games. As a reminder, the winner this week is going to be the person who wins the most games. Now, keeping in mind, if we have a tie, if all 3 decks get all 3 wins, that's fantastic. That means all of you win. We're not going to exclude anybody just because of that. So we're going to have a really fun time, but let's go ahead. Let's jump into game 1. And here we are for game number 1. And honestly, this is a pretty solid keeping hand. Experimental Overload, not super exciting right now. But we do have obviously double Metallic Mimic, which is kind of like, that's just killer. And then obviously the Spellkeeper Weird, which worth noting does get around kind of a lot of removal. Something to kind of think about here. Spellkeeper Weird doesn't die to a lot of the burn spells that you would normally see. It also doesn't easily, I will say, die to like a fatal push or anything like that. You do kind of have to, you know, fetch out with a Fabled Passage or do something like that before it actually hits. So kind of interesting. I'm very curious to see how it actually pans out here. So we'll see. Let's go ahead. We'll just get a blue source here. I don't think it matters too much. And I'm going to go for the basic and immediately go for the Metallic Mimic. Very curious to see what the opponent has with double white but no plays. That makes me think maybe not life gain. And again, it looks like that's not going to be the case. My assumption here is that they will have some kind of sweeper. So I think what we're going to do is throw this out and specifically choose Weird here. The reason being, I kind of want to attack on a couple different angles. And what that means for us, excuse me, is if they do sweep here, it's not the end of the world. If they double block here, it's kind of okay. Yep. Excuse me. I'm still having my second cup of coffee this morning. All right. Get those out of there. Honestly, that's kind of okay. It's a 2-for-1. We've got another Metallic Mimic in the back here. So that's not too bad. All right, I think we take the opportunity to throw this out and then throw this out. Just be mana efficient as best we can. Next turn we can play the Metallic Mimic, which is going to buff up the Weird again. And then potentially we can spin the wheel with Icon as well if we'd like. So we may play around with that order a bit and just see what the best play is. I am a little worried about like a Banishing Light. That's a very easy pick for this kind of mono white build that would probably be able to remove almost anything that we've got. So we'll see how it goes. Honestly, I would love the Reflections right now. Ixalan's Binding, okay. Yeah, very, very good, honestly. That definitely is a shutdown for us a little bit here. So let's do this. We're gonna throw the Bloodline Pretender out. We're going to fetch up a basic, probably just a mountain, but this thins our deck ever so slightly as well. We're going to throw this out. We're going to select Weird, which does help here, and then we just attack for 1. Not a super exciting turn, but we do have a good bit down now. Very curious to see if they just have a sweeper. Looks like no. Interesting. Okay, so let's throw this out. I'm gonna throw the Spellgorger Weird out. I don't know if that's actually it's very scary to do that though. Modern Uro, I think you build a really good deck, but against these sweepers, I'm assuming that they might have. I'm very worried. Granted, yeah, there we go. I thought they may have played it last turn, which is kind of why I decided to go for it, but obviously not the case. And unfortunately, this Experimental Overload doesn't hit for anything at the moment. Well, that's scary. Excuse me. Yeah, that's very scary. Okay, so this is going to get out of hand exceptionally quickly. They've already got Castle Ardenvale to throw stuff out here. Yeah, I mean, we just, unfortunately, these are all dead cards. And I think this is the trick. So Modern Uro, the trick here being that, one, we just haven't drawn very many instants in sorcery, so I'm not criticizing the deck building by any means. But because we haven't done that, these two cards are just absolutely dead. And with Spark Double, I mean, we're not doing anything either. So, I mean, we just have to do this, I think. And chances are we might just be dead, but we'll see. So gonna get hit for 6 here. They're gonna create a couple more tokens. They're gonna power it up, and that's game. Wow, unfortunate. Just some bad draws there, Modern Uro. No big deal. Let's go ahead. We'll jump into game number 2. All right, and here we are for game number 2, and I actually really like this hand. So if we get a land, we're in really good shape with the Spellgorger Weirds. We've also got the Memory Lapse, so we can go ahead and at least get something in the graveyard here, which obviously is helpful for us. I'm not going to Brainstorm this turn. Brainstorm is exceptionally good when you've got Fabled Passage and that kind of thing. Unfortunately, we don't at the moment, which is okay. Excuse me, but let's see how this goes. I also would rather activate it with a Spellgorger Weird kind of on the battlefield here. I'm going to Memory Lapse this. Let's just go ahead and get some stuff going here. This obviously just goes to the top of their deck, so it's not that big of a deal, but taken 2. All right. Here, unfortunately, I do think we just have to do this. So this adapts for 1. Let's see. I think the play is... So weirdly, I kind of think it's Spellkeeper Weird. No, I'm going to do this. This may force them to adapt instead of play anything. I mean, if they have a 4th land, they can just do kind of both, but we'll see. Sure. Okay, so that was enough to keep some damage off of our back there, so that's good. Let's throw this out. It's gonna build up the Bloodline Pretender. I keep saying Predator, and it's not. And we'll attack in here. The fun part about this is if they do adapt with the Biomancer, we get to Brainstorm, which is then going to trigger the Spellgorger Weird, which is then going to essentially allow us to block it. And we'll see if they attack in here. I'm very curious. They're going to put it on the River Sneak, which makes sense. It is unblockable. It looks like they are not willing to trade. Fantastic. Very interesting, actually. All right, so... I mean, I think we just put both of these back for now. Doesn't matter for the moment. We're going to draw 1 next turn. All right. Do this. We could play the Reflections. Do we feel like we're just going to lose the game at some point here is the worry. I don't know, but we're going for cool points here. So we're going to do it. Let's go with Weird. And truth be told, I think we don't attack. Very worried to see how this turn actually goes. Wow, okay. Such a good card. Such a fantastic card, my goodness. Yeah. All right, so... I mean, we're just dead, right? Like, they just attack with everything and we're dead? We cannot block enough that this matters. Yeah. They got us. Wow, unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, Merfolk is just so good. This is what it's like to play an obscure tribe against a very good tribe. So they're just kind of piling on at this point. But unfortunately, Modern Uro, that's another loss. Let's see if we can get it in game 3. I'm going to let them attack, though. I mean, they earned it. They got a... I mean, that's pretty solid. All right, well, we got one more game, Modern Uro. I believe in us. Let's see if we can do it. All right, and here we are. Now, this is a very interesting hand, actually, and I don't think we can keep it. The reason being, this doesn't actually provide blue mana for either of these 2 cards. It does get us to the Predator, which is Pretender. I don't know why, but unfortunately, I just don't think it's worth keeping, so I'm not going to. This is much more manageable, so I will happily keep this. I think the play is to throw one of these back. I'd like to keep these lands as best we can. We do want to leave up the Memory Lapse, so what we're going to do is lead on the island, then the mountain. So that does allow us to Memory Lapse on turn 2, just if we need to. Certainly it'd be better to kind of wait for the Spellgorger Weird, I think, but we'll see. Stitcher Supplier, okay. Graveyard deck, here we come. Fortunately, they just got 3 lands off the top, which is not very good for them, and we'll just pass. Absolutely love my morning coffee, people. All right, so they're gonna draw a couple cards. That's fine. Very curious to see what this is. It could be like Death Shadow, Luris Death Shadow kind of thing. Let's go Unclaimed Territory. We're gonna say Weird, and actually think the play is this. So the reason I want to do this, we're obviously not playing anything else this turn, and so it's not like we're leaving up anything to throw a counter on the Spellgorger Weird. What could happen next turn, however, is we play the Spellgorger Weird, power up the Pretender, get a land off the top, and then be able to Brainstorm as well. So we'll see. It may not work at all, but we're going to give it a shot. The opponent hitting quite a number of lands here, which is kind of interesting. I'm going to just throw out the Spellgorger Weird. We're going to be mana efficient and do it. I don't know what this deck is going to have in terms of cards I'd like to counter, albeit that's one of them, for sure. Excuse me. Ooh. Goodness gracious. But I don't really think I'm terrified of that at the moment. Okay. Unburial Rights in this deck. That's fascinating. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's good. All right. So what's the play? I mean, we can do this, which is going to power everything up, which doesn't seem bad. Yeah, we're just going to do it. We're going to say weird. I'm going to brainstorm because if we do find a land, then we kind of want it. And we did. That's good. We'll put the banner back. Doesn't matter which order. And we'll throw you out. And we just pass. The trick here is I don't think we can block the Phyrexian Obliterator because if we do, we're just kind of screwed. Interesting. So they did not attack. Fascinating. All right, so we're going to do this. We're going to name weird, obviously. And we're going to say no attacks. This is going to be a stalemate for potentially a little while, although the Valkyrie does change the math. Excuse me. All right, sure. We'll memory lapse it. It's going to put a counter on the Spellgorger, which is at least something. All right. Name weird. So, question is, do we attack? And again, I think the answer is no. This is a very tricky place to be because the Phyrexian Obliterator really changes the math. And there's the second. All right. I mean, might as well. I hate this. I hate this so much. So the problem is if it's dealt damage, we have to sacrifice that many permanents, which is a lot of permanents. And so I just don't think we can attack. The only problem is we have no way to deal with the Valkyrie either. So I think we might just be kind of screwed here. All right. Interesting. I mean, we definitely are just going to block here, here. The problem is, too, they also have Unburial Rights, so we're going to lose our board. Unfortunately, we kind of have to, though. Yeah. 5? 6, 7? That was a bad one, but yeah, it's our whole board is gone. Good thing we have a land off the top. Yeah, this is Modern Uro. I don't think we're getting there, buddy. I did try very hard, but it's just not gonna happen. Wow, and Elishnorn too. Yep. Good game. Cool deck by the opponent as well. I like that. All right, so let's talk about your deck, Modern Uro. All right, so here is my overall thought. First of all, again, Modern Uro, I just want to say a huge thank you. I don't think you did a bad job with your deck. I think we had some very tough matchups. I also think this is Obscure Tribe Week. Wins are going to be difficult. So that's something that I want to keep in mind and kind of set the stage for throughout the week because, you know, obviously some tribes are going to be more powerful than others because they have access to different cards and that kind of stuff. Weird is certainly a weird one. And so I don't think this was an abnormal, you know, idea. I think this made a lot of sense. And unfortunately, it just didn't work. And that's okay. It's totally fine. So Modern Uro, again, I just want to say a huge thank you. I really like this build. There was a lot of stuff that I found very, very fun with this kind of build where, and I think, again, we're going to see a lot of this repeated, I think, throughout the week. But obviously just playing more and more creatures to kind of build up everything. And I think that that's going to be a common theme, albeit there are some decks that we have submitted this week that may not follow that play pattern. And so we're going to try and get a nice little showcase of some different ones. But again, Modern Uro, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody for your submissions. I really do appreciate it. Please make sure if you are watching and you do have a submission, and especially if you'd like to pick up some free proxies, please feel free to enter in this competition. You certainly can. We do it every single week, and it's a really, really fun time. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I love you all very much. I hope you have a happy Monday, and I will see you very soon for another gameplay video.